From time to time in these videos I refer to various memories that I have of the relatively early days of BBC television, presumably because such images leave a great impression on a child's mind. That magic box that sat in the corner and brought into the home images from around the world that just seems like magic. And to help with the magic, there were the great nature programs. I remember almost like it was yesterday, names like Hans and Lottie Haas, who went scuba diving, showed us what it was like under the oceans of the world, bringing into our living rooms corals and fish. And then Armand and Michaela Dennis, who travelled around Africa, showing us the wonders of the national parks there, the lions, tigers, elephants, and the way they lived. There were other miscellaneous names that I remember. Desmond Morris, Peter Scott, coming at a later stage, David Attenborough. But one thing they all shared in common was the way they added the commentary. Some of it was to inform us about the lifestyle of these animals, but others, they tended to more show us the film and add their commentary as observers, but adding in basically the way a human would think. So far as I know, it hasn't been established yet that animals can think in the same way as we do. So when you see the herd of gazelles being approached by lions, it's generally assumed to be an instinctive response to flee, rather than conversation about what might be happening, etc., as would be the case with humans. Then and throughout the years, I've always toyed with the thought, what would it be like to make a film of human activity without knowing what the subjects were actually thinking, and projecting our own thoughts and feelings onto it. Haven't actually gone out with the camera yet, but it is interesting as it just to observe people. These days, with all the various mobile sound playback devices, you can sort of get an idea of where I'm going if you've seen anyone walking down the street listening to music. One of my earlier examples of this was before the days of easily transportable equipment. There was a college friend who'd turn up his stereo system, blasting out through the speakers, but he also put on his headphones and he'd start pounding away on his desk to the music. One of his favourites for this was Emerson, Lake and Palmer, perhaps imagining that he could play the organ or the piano or whatever instrument they were playing at the time. We'd sneak into his room, turn the speakers off and just watch him pounding away. Until in the end, I guess our laughs were so loud that we gave the game away and he realised what was going on. Well, as I said, throughout the years I thought, what else can we observe, project our own thoughts into a situation without necessarily know what's going on. And that more recently has been an opportunity presented to me because I live near a university. The university location itself reminds me of a way a medieval fortress might be built. In this case, there's a steep incline going down to a freeway which covers one side. You then have the university, and then going out in almost concentric circles, you have the dormitories, then the various fraternity and sorority houses, and then in what is still a mixed residential neighbourhood there are the mini dorms. Right through all these residences, of course, that the students are housed, and in their first few months you can see them building up new relationships. It's their first time away from home for many of them. First time away from their immediate family. And so they're building up new personal relationships, but at the same time building up great bonds with other people around them. And to imagine the sort of scene, I want you to first imagine a flock of birds. You'll see them all in a tree. They'll then take off, perform a variety of maneuvers that aerobatic teams like the Blue Angels would find great difficulty in performing. But the birds do it seemingly effortlessly, swoop up, swoop down, sometimes returning to the same tree, other times settling on another tree or telephone wires. And that's the sort of image that you can get with these young students. Not that they ever leave the ground, but you see them moving between the different houses, usually dressed in the same way. You'll see one crowd swoop down the street, sometimes see them swooping back, other times it will be another group, again up and down, round and round, and again taking the view that the naturalist might take. They identify them, not in this case by their plumage, but by what they are wearing. Again, part of this identification with this new group of friends. Frequently the whole group, or at least a dozen, will be dressed pretty much identically. And that is what makes the different groups distinctive between them. Sometimes you might use the word dressed in the broadest sense of the word, because undressed almost would be a description, but perhaps I'm just showing a bit of age here. But in this climate, they're alright, they're not going to freeze to death. But there they go, up and down the street, visiting the different houses, which when you project the various emotions that we might have, you'd see that they're looking for new attachments, attachments that one can well imagine become very strong and are maintained over the years, especially when you see postings through the social media, the 10-year reunion, the 20, pushing it sometimes to have a 50-year reunion, but it does happen as well. Without knowing exactly who is doing what, it is interesting to note that some universities, and my local one is no exception, pride themselves on their rating on the party school rating. One hopes that some serious academic work does come out of this as well, but nothing wrong with letting loose. The letting loose part, usually a phenomena that starts to develop on a Thursday evening. Apparently it's very easy to get Friday classes because very few want them. This continues on Friday night and Saturday night. That's where I might be showing a sign of the times issue. When I was a student, we usually finished our homework by 9 o'clock. We then go out for half a pint of beer or a pint, return to our living quarters, sleep and be ready for class the next day. You never tell exactly what's going on because media likes to sensationalize, but even reading about it and thinking that even if it's a few students, just the idea of this binge drinking just seems to be ridiculous. We always used to, and I still enjoy a drink for the flavour, a small buzz, but the idea of waking up the next morning and having to ask one's friends if one had a good time or not just seems to be rather pointless. The other little interesting phenomenon, I heard it years ago and really can say that it's true today, is when the individual forgets that they're getting older and just thinks that those that surround them are getting younger. But yes, it's true. The students of today are approximately the same age as they ever have been. They're no younger than they used to be. That's when we have to remind ourselves that the years are clicking by and we're the ones getting older. Even though in our minds everything that happened then is perfectly clear, it's also good to be able to just step aside, let them make all these new experiments, these new social connections all on their own. Our parents sometimes might have thought we were going to mess things up, but we turned out okay, and there's no reason why they shouldn't. But it does again enable me to sit back and observe and see what, in the television sense when you turn the sound off and just watch the pictures, it does sometimes seem somewhat amusing. but it's all serious in the real sense of the word, with a good dose of fun thrown in. And interesting for us just to watch, imagine, and remember when we were that age as well.